All right, hello, this is David Taylor Klaus, and this is episode 12 of Mindset Mondays with DTK. So depending on what part of the world you're in, it's either good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. As you sign on to the live broadcast, please let me know where you're dialing in from for the folks that are seeing it live. This is Mindset Mondays with DTK, and the purpose of this project is to give folks with a growth mindset or folks who want to develop one the opportunity to play with new ideas, new thoughts, new concepts, new mindsets, a chance to really explore the power of mindset and what happens in our world when we take control of our mindset. And just a reminder, there's a share button below. Please go ahead and share this with your tribe, your friends, your people. You invite them to come join Mindset Mondays and to join us today and every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Today's quote, I want to dive in because this is something I really want to play with. This one is, examine what you believe to be impossible and then change your belief. And this sort of strikes to the central point of what we play with mindset. So on the first side, just keeping it purely frontal lobe and intellectual, this playground is about being conscious. So the first part of this is so critical. Examine what you believe to be impossible. Now, you may not change your belief. You may not change your mind at all. The difference is if you examine it, if you turn it over, if you flip around what it is that you believe and really play with it, you have the opportunity to, at the very least, be conscious in the way you're living your life, to not operate unconsciously, to not operate or to live an unexamined life. So this is really, I think, the most striking part of it. Examine what you believe, period. Particularly, examine what you believe to be impossible. And this quote, the opportunity to play with here is a quote from Wayne Dyer, is to examine what's impossible and then change your belief, right? So Elaine and I were talking about this morning. Mrs. Southworth, my favorite teacher in high school. In fact, she and I share a birthday, April 20th. Miss Southworth I had for 11th grade human physiology and anatomy. And so I was a human phys and anatomy nerd. I took copious notes. I recopied them. It was one of those hyper-focus ADD moments. I was actually the one who had the study guide that everybody used, only class ever in all of my academic career, where I was the one where the notes were the benchmark, actually the class that I kept the notes from. But one of the things I learned, or I grew to believe, that it was impossible to have a healthy child, that there were too many things that could possibly go wrong when a human is developing and a human is born, that there was no way to have healthy kids. I committed in 11th grade, I was never going to have kids. And I was convinced, I believed that it was impossible to have a healthy child. And if I had kept that idea, if I had maintained that belief, this never would have happened. We never would have had these children, right? And I have learned so much about life from them, and they've changed who I was. And if I had held that idea of it being impossible and operated unconsciously, this wouldn't be my family. And it's astounding how much we decide is impossible and then live our lives as if that's true. And what this quote invites us to do, what this vote invites us to do by saying, then change your belief, is to actually live a conscious, choiceful life and have possibilities that exceed what that unconscious life gives us. I think it really plays beyond that. When Beth and I launched our previous company, Digital Positions, in 1995, that very much became part of my identity. And I not only was an entrepreneur, I was our company. I was clear that how I defined myself was co-founder and co-leader of an internet strategy and web development company. And I hadn't separated my identity from the company. So I hadn't separated my definition of success of myself from the company. Right? Excuse me. And so natural ebb and flow of business, as we learned more about the work that we're doing and more about the industry, and as the world changed over 14 years, anytime there was a dip, I equated myself so much with the company that if any initiative failed, or that I didn't feel like the company was being successful, then I was a failure. And by not separating myself from it, it was impossible for me to hold myself as whole, as successful, as a pretty damn successful human being. But I tied it to the company. And so I believed that it was impossible to separate my identity from that company. And it made it impossible, incredibly difficult for me to reevaluate any possibility, any future, anything. And it took an external wake-up call to really get me to reevaluate that. And I made it harder than it needed to be. Charlotte, I love what you're sharing. Shattered your heel and was told you would never be able to walk again. I mean, how often do we hear stories of people told after an accident, they'll never be able to this, never be able to that? And if you hold that impossibility as true, what happens? And I think that what Charlotte said, choosing not to believe them, and guess what? She walked. And I think that's one of the more important pieces of this. So where is this coming up for you in your world? Where are you experiencing where you have made up that something's impossible and chose to believe it instead of turning that over? I mean, another conversation we've been having is about asking for help. And there will be a Mindset Mondays that's specifically about this. But for now, wow, how many of you have had times in your life where you believe that asking for help is a sign of weakness? You know, asking for help. It's impossible to ask for help and be or appear strong, when in fact, being brave enough and strong enough to ask for help is a sign of strength. It's quite the opposite. Yet when did we learn that that was a sign of weakness? Now, there are so many people, Bill, that are watching this that would hold the same idea. Believing things are impossible when looking at your career arc or the next job or the next business to launch. How many of you, if you look at it and say, it's impossible. At my age or in my industry, it's impossible to find another job. It's impossible to find this. Well, is it? How many of you know the story of, oh God, who plays God in all the movies? Morgan Freeman. How many of you know the story of Morgan Freeman? He got his big break at 57. One of the movies he's best known for, The Shawshank Redemption. He was 57 years old. It's back to one of the posts I posted after last week's broadcast. If you got a pulse, you got time. It's never impossible. What makes something impossible is your choosing to believe that it is. Not believing that it is, choosing to believe that it is. Yeah. It's a sign of strength. Yeah. So again, so for those of you who are listening and not seeing it, there are comments that are coming in that, you know, Charlotte has said, love that asking for help is a sign of strength. And so, you know, I encourage you folk during the week to come to Facebook.com/group/Mindset Mondays. There are conversations that go on about these topics and other other topics that come up during the week. Yeah, Bill, Roy Kroc basically started McDonald's when he was 52. Yeah, whether you love McDonald's or not, it doesn't matter. That's another story where believing it's impossible in the back 50, you know, the second 50 years of your life to have something change, that's not true. It's only true if you believe it. Going through this right now, looking at purchasing a house. You know, believing that something is impossible is the surest ticket to it remaining impossible. So as you stare at the impossibilities in your world, go back to the quote. Examine what you believe to be impossible and then change your belief. Where are you staring at things that are impossible in your world? And are you choosing to believe it's impossible? Everything about mindset, absolutely everything about mindset is a choice. Everything is a choice. And my favorite question is, what will you choose now? Thanks, Jody. No typo. So what's impossible in your world? What are you encountering that's impossible? And what will you choose to believe instead? And flip it to the positive. When you re-examine and choose new beliefs, what will become possible in your world? So again, come to facebook.com/group/Mindset Mondays and share where you have things that you previously, that up until now you've chosen to believe are impossible, but you're willing now to choose a different belief. What will be possible in your world when you step back from believing things are impossible? All right, so until next week, please join us at facebook.com/group/Mindset Mondays. Share this with your tribe, your people. Invite them to come in. The more folk that join the conversation, the more opportunity we all have to learn. And also the opportunity to go to dtkcoaching.com/book. You get to hear a little bit more of the story of, you've been hearing bits and pieces of it as we go along, where my life has turned and how I reshape things. This is not a pitch. This is an opportunity to read a story where I stopped looking at things as impossible and started looking at what I wanted to see different in my world and chose to believe that I could create that shift. So again, until next week, what mindset are you willing to choose? What are you willing to look at that you believed was impossible and change that belief? I look forward to having you join the conversation next week. Again, this is David Taylor Klaus with Mindset Mondays with DTK, and I look forward to joining you each Monday. Until next week, be well.